What happens when you mix Marvel products with actual Greek mythology? You get at episode 7 for this whole weekly review, where welcome back to Cloak and Dagger Weekly. I am doing bulk edits to try and get all this stuff together, so we're talking about 4 episodes. They're going to be 4 back to back to back to back for you motherfuckers on the internet. Where today's episode for Cloak and Dagger is episode 7 of season 1, Lotus Eaters. Why is there a Greek parallel? I will tell you after we do the entire wrap-up where, for the first time, we do not have a Tyrone Tandy storyline. It's all the same fucking story! So, yeah, we're gonna be trying to do a deep dive for this where, how to talk about... Again, the last episode for episode 6 felt like a part 1 to this. Can you agree with me on this, Shan?
Yeah.
So, this one following suit where Tyrone is grappling with the fact that Dwayne died in front of him the same way that Billy died in front of him, where he desperately needs someone to talk to because he has real problems involving, being a minority in the South, watching cops kill his friends and family, where he might be going through an emotional spiral. We're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the white girl that's trying to use an Asian man to clear her 1% daddy. Somehow, still, Tandy is a better rich person protagonist than Tony Stark is, the way that he's not all MCU-ified in the form where Tandy is more realistic. I love you, RDJ, but honestly, even you can admit, Tandy's the better rich person archetype than you are. I digress. So, they're diving into the brain of Ivan Hess to try to bring him forth because Tandy wants closure on her dad's death on the oil rig, because then she'll be able to feel like she's the big hero.
Don't we all?
Never mind that Ty is desperately grappling with stuff that's the real world problems for the 99% and minorities like myself. But no, we're going to focus on Tandy's pain. Sure.
It's perfectly normal things. Don't worry about it.
So, the whole reason that Ty is there is because it's not really a hope door inside Ivan's head when they both grab the hands of Ivan to dive in. It's his fears mixed with hope. But mostly his fears are overlapping because we learn in this episode later down the line, I'm going to say this right now, they're tapping into a vein that goes into the Dark Force with a mixture of the Light Force. Hence why when the rig explodes, when it grapples onto Tiny and Tyrone in this continuity, it's this way. If you want the original way about how they get their powers, it's explained in season 2, and you're probably going to be like, huh? Stan Lee, why did you approve this? This seems kind of fucked up. But keep in mind, guys, this is the same comic book that said that Luke Cage, as a prisoner, was a superhero, but he kept going back and forth to jail. A black man being a superhero, but his whole thing is he's from prison. Marvel was a little bit weird. Very progressive. Not very that tonally correct in a lot of ways. Keep that in mind. So, the whole thing is, Ivan's brain is interlocked on the final moments of the rig. When the klaxon alarms go off, when the people get infected by the Dark Force to become terrors, and when the big explosion goes off to kill everybody but leave Ivan Hess as a catatonic husk of a man. In his own head, he has forgotten his name, he's forgotten his daughter Mina, he's forgotten why he's there. He's just kept note of all of the patterns, all of the different names for people like Monsieur Flambe, Renchi, Cheney, Axie, all these different cute names for people that he went to work with. As we start off the episode with him actually being a pretty friendly boss that just wanted the best work environment and the best treatment for everybody to feel protected. And then they just, shit all over that because Raxon is every single corporation and company you can ever think of. I'm thinking of Amazon right now. To kind of go into the whole point where, before you guys are just like, oh my god, is V gonna talk the whole episode? No, I am not, folks. That's where Shan comes in.
Okay, my Discord kind of glitched. Where did you leave off?
I was just leaving off about the overscope of the mind. I didn't go into anything else.
So they're in the mind right now.
Yeah, we're just talking about them in the mind.
Okay. So basically, we're introduced obviously with Ivan because I mean we're in his mind, low key, legit. Basically, he can see and talk to Tandy and Ty, which for starters is different because there are other people in this mind that low key are trying to kill them. They are kind of like zombie looking figures. Way better than The Walking Dead. We will not discuss. And then we get introduced to Ivan, who was walking and talking, being normal. He is not corrupted like everybody else that was in the rig when it exploded. Basically, Ivan's talking to Ty and Tandy about how everything is repeating. Like, he's talking some really weird nonsense about something about the game is in, like, the 6th and 7th inning or whatever number it was, and, like, literally it's just looking at a blueprint that has a bunch of X's and shit on it. And they're trying to get information about, like, what the hell is he talking about, and he's talking about, like, when reality ends. And then the best part of the whole beginning of episode part, which Vince can contest, is the phone starts ringing, and he picks it up, slams it down. Like that one John Mulaney skit where he goes, "Hello,
Hello,
hush,"
hush.
and slams the phone down. Which I, for one, died laughing. But that's not the point. Um, And then they talk about how they need to like stop this so the rig doesn't explode. And Ivan goes on about saying that you technically can't supposedly, and I say supposedly with a very strong tongue, stop the rig from exploding because you have to go down to the core, which apparently is very difficult to get to, and you can't really get to it at all, and then turn off all the valves, which our boy Ty at some point throughout the episodes tries to do all by himself because our girl Tandy here is also getting slowly corrupted because she ends up picking up the phone and talks to her father. And what do you think she wants the most? Talk to her father. So he tries to go down into the core to turn off the valves himself, which clearly he could not do. And Tyrone basically goes on about saying, like, we have to leave here, like, this isn't gonna work, we can't do this. Where Tandy says, yep, we'll just let go of his hand, and at the count of 3, and we'll both be back to, normal reality. Where when they do that, only Tyrone comes back. Tandy stays behind. Would you like to continue from there?
Sure. So, in this whole scape, after, of course, finding out the fact that Raxon is the reason they have their powers, but a smidge bit, Tyrone goes back into the mine where Tandy's been there for over 200 cycles. Because she's like, I get to talk to my dad, and I'm just still, because even Shan can attest, I'm sitting there like, okay, Tandy, this is helping your problems and the 1% of being a white girl in America. What about Ty's problems? Because his brother's friend just died a few hours ago. Like, why are we doing this for you? Why is it just you? What the fuck is wrong with you? But apparently, outside of everything, even though Shan's my little sister, people would be like, V, you sound racist. How am I being racist? This is a serious problem. Ty needs therapy and someone to hold him. What the fuck is going on? Which is slightly addressed in the episode where Tandy's trying to be all sorts of manic and overall protective of her obsessive core value right now by even saying that she didn't care about Tyrone's problems. She used him because he had a moment of vulnerability. He was only going to eat it up if it was a damsel in distress archetype of an emotional appeal, and she manipulated that. Whether or not that's true, it's up for interpretation because her obsessive thing ties back to the title of the episode, which I promised to explain to you guys at the end of this episode about why it's a very potent thing. But in doing so, we're also seeing that in this whole obsessive nature, Tandy has expanded on her powers to use her hope daggers as a projectile instead of just as a melee weapon, where she can throw it or just use it to stab people. Something that most people in Marvel Rivals know when it's Cloak and Dagger or in their other skin, Pimp and Swagger, as they're just trying to clear up the map. But also, Tandy's trying to use it to kill Tyrone, but it's also like, Tandy, really? You're gonna try to kill your perfect opposite that can pretty much clown on you 5 ways to Sunday, and everyone knows it? Like, what the fuck you gonna do? Try to stab Ty? You can't stab Ty. You can't even touch Ty right now. What the fuck you doing, baby? What the hell you doing, girl?
She's corrupted.
So, from this whole obsessive nature overlapping her senses, it's not until she decides to ask imaginary Nathan Bowen the only question that she knows that he would not know. Who is in the back seat while he's making this phone call? And since Ivan didn't know this, imaginary Nathan doesn't know, Tandy's in the car with, which breaks her of her obsession to help break Ivan out of the loop to remember his daughter Mina, to then, surprisingly, shut down the rig and save his own mind. It took most of the
You can
episode.
talk.
It took most of the episode to get here because Tandy was kind of fucking useless this whole episode. But we finally got here.
He can talk.
He can talk. And eat cookies again.
And see his daughter again.
But he's gonna forget the fact that the secret ingredient is cardamom.
You'll relearn. It's fine.
So the episode kind of just concludes from there where Ty is digging through, because earlier in the episode while he was talking to Tandy, Tandy wanted to besmirch Billy a little bit to just hurt Ty until he said that he might want to do the same thing that Tandy's doing, but I think his emotional maturity allowed him to do something that Tandy couldn't, which is accept the fact that Billy's gone and there's no way back to get him back. So he was digging through some stuff from his private collection of items and found a tape recorder of him and his brother Billy just messing around. He calls up Tandy to have a really sweet moment between the two of them where they're just listening to the tape recorder. As I'm still sitting back like, okay, but are we going to really address that Ty needs a friend to talk about the trauma he just went through today, watching 2 cops kill another, like, close person in his life that counted as family? No. We're just going to focus on Tandy feeling happy? Okay, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
So unless I'm missing anything, Shan, were we missing anything?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much covered it.
Okay. Well, this might be a shorter review, but now it's time to talk about the theme and motif of the episode, if you would. So, Lotus Eaters. For many people, and I'm assuming Shan is one of these many people, you're probably wondering, what does the title of the episode really mean? The pull stray hair that was getting in my face. Am I correct in that assumption, Shan?
Yeah.
Lotus Eaters. For many people that do not know, because why would you probably know? It's not that important for many people. Stems from the Odyssey written by Homer, which is also adapted into multiple different medias. It's about a group of people that chew on a flower or fruit, depending on the adaptation, where it makes your mind go into a lull that actually makes you become lethargic, and therefore you're trapped in a prison of your own making because your mind is now encapsulated and then stuck in the nature of the fruit. Hence why the Lotus Eaters were a actual problem for Odysseus and his men, because if they ate the fruit, they would never want to leave the island. That parallel goes into Ivan's catatonic state being stuck, because the energies of the Dark Force and the Light Force mixed together to mash in the reoccurring nightmare from what happened. Because with Roxxon as an obsessive nature for himself to make sure that people came out alive, He'll never know all the people that died, but his mind is trapped like it's a fruit that he bit into. But we wouldn't get that whole parallel until we dangled the fruit of what would Tandy do if her father was on the line? Because Ivan would talk to Nathan all the time. Nathan is really a girl dad all the way. All the different things that are being brought up, I know as a girl dad myself, that all the different conversations, all the things to really get into, the way that the cadence and conversations played out, it all culminates into the perfect way that Tandy was a Lotus Eater victim because the Lotus was so good, she became useless. Hence, throughout the whole episode, I said that she was useless. She was no good. She was not going to help anybody. Because the theme of the episode matches why the title is so prevalent. Where Tyrone was, of course, our Odysseus, the clever hero that no one really listens to and gets punished the most. As Tandy is one of the other kind of parallels of a hero that is given everything, but when stripped of it, tries to make it more of a redemption story without realizing that they had what they wanted all along. It's one of those deeper parallels that makes this episode much more of a Greek tragedy to understand Cloak and Dagger as a whole, rather than it's the entire season. Their whole journey throughout this one episode is much like a Greek tragedy in a lot of different ways, that it makes what happens next very poetic and very sad.
Oh, God.
Was it?
Nothing.
Okay. So, yeah, this might be our shortest episode for Cloak and Dagger Weekly, and I don't know what else to really do to drag this out because we said most of the stuff in the previous episode, but we're going to have a lot more to say in the coming up episode for episode 8, with the title being Ghost Stories.
I would just like to say real quick,
What up?
as somebody who, not saying I can't relate to Tyrone because I don't have any siblings to lose, but as someone who also has lost a parent that meant like the world to me, in this episode, I felt like I could somewhat have a connection with Tandy only because like I would love to, like talk to my mother again and like do all these things. But at the same time, it's like there's nothing in the world that can change. So like at the same time, even though I felt that special connection with Tandy, I also like 100% agree with Tyrone. Like this isn't real life, and you have to like move on and let it go. So it felt deep between her and him because I understood where Tandy was feeling and coming from, but I was with Tyrone's side like the entire time.
Then why don't you share with us what you thought about the episode as a whole, as a, you know, overall experience watching it for the first time?
I honestly thought that this episode was really interesting. I felt like motivated. I felt like I was in. I felt like on between both sides, actually all three sides in a way, because like Ivan, like I mean I don't like relate to Ivan, let's like I don't, but like he lost his daughter in that mindset because he didn't even know who she was. Tandy had to remind him of like the cookies and like all these things to get his memory back up and running to end his mind with where he was trapped in. So between the two of them, like I could understand where she was coming from, but I was with Tyrone on the whole thing. And like I just felt a weird connection between both characters versus just like one or the other. And I just felt like I was really dived into this episode and I really actually appreciate this episode a lot. I thought it was very interesting.
It doesn't help that Shan has an older brother, hello, that has like that whole thing of what is it like to lose a parent? I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
Orphan. Anywho, we're getting ready to record episode 8 of Ghost Stories. where hopefully nothing sad is going to happen to set up the last 2 episodes of season 1.
If I cry at this show, I blame you. I'm emotional.
We'll see you guys soon.